the impact of John MacArthur on a lot of preachers is almost, it's without end. For you in particular, we're at the Master's Seminary. You head up the Doctor of Ministry program in a lot of ways. I'm a part of that. And so that impact trickles down. But you speak a lot about the expositor, Dr. John MacArthur. Could you do your best to, again, funnel an ocean into a bottle, his impact on your life and your ministry?
Yeah. Well, it's like talking about the force of a tsunami on a sandcastle. Yeah. How old are you, Kasi?
I'll be 39 this year.
Okay. The first Shepherd's Conference I ever attended was 40 years ago. So that's before you were born. And I flew out here by myself, which was somewhat of an intimidating experience. And catching a series of buses. I didn't even have a rental car to find my way here to Grace Community Church. We met in the little chapel. And, there were like 150 guys. We didn't even fill up the chapel. And it was a young John MacArthur. And as I sat there and listened to him walking through Romans 1, 8 through 15, was astonishing, because he just went verse by verse, phrase by phrase, but he had a manner of explaining it that was so clear and so understandable, but so powerful and forceful, so true to the text, that it was as if the Apostle Paul was up there speaking to us. And MacArthur's just channeling the Apostle Paul. And it blew me away. And there was one night we met in the larger worship center, and the whole church came, and all of us, and I remember he preached through 2 Timothy chapter 2. And it was just like, it's so connected with me that it was like, that's it. And that's what's inside of me that just resonates within me. And it's not like I want to be like John MacArthur, but it's like I want to be able to do what he's doing. And I think to learn how to preach, ultimately it's more caught than it is taught. To actually see it and to experience it, you're learning how to preach. And that was my first and initial encounter with John MacArthur. I shook his hand at the end, like for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So I didn't really know him, and I never dreamed I would ever know him. That would have been a foolish thought for me to have. But I would speak, or he would speak at conferences. I would attend that. Eventually, we used the same publisher for a period of time, and I got to spend a little bit more time, and they started inviting me to come out here and preach at college retreats. And so I would come out and do that, and they said, do you want to play golf with MacArthur? And I said, let me pray about it. Yes. So I just developed a friendship with him. He was so easy to talk to and so accessible. And he would then say, would you preach on Sunday night for us here? Let me pray about it. Yes. Yeah. And he kind of opened himself up to me to spend time with him and eat meals with him and to play golf with him. But he also opened up opportunities for me to preach for him and then preach with him. And I'm learning more than anyone in the room or anyone in a conference on how to preach by closely watching him from the front pew. And then he began to ask me to travel with him and to preach in various places. And so to be on an airplane and in a car and at a hotel and just talking about preaching, where RC is like fun and games, John's pretty serious.
Yeah.
If RC is Martin Luther, John is John Calvin. I mean, to the point.
Yeah.
And very serious-minded, though he does have a great sense of humor, but it's a different form of humor. And I also observed John's life. He's a pit bull in the pulpit. He is the most gracious, kind man out of the pulpit. And I see how he treats waitresses and flight attendants and people in hotel staff. And he's so pastoral, and he's so kind and looking for common ground and ways to make people feel comfortable around him. And so I'm observing how to live the Christian life also from John MacArthur. And so what he provided for me is, this is how you take a passage of Scripture, and this is the importance of word studies. This isn't the importance of parsing verbs. This is the importance of grammar and syntax. This is the importance of historical background. This is the importance of cross-references. This is the importance of the geographical setting. This is the importance of the argument of the book. This is the importance of the immediate context. This is the importance of all the details in this passage. And so he's just pulling me down into the text. And as he is, I was already doing that, but not at that level. And I really learned how to preach in many ways reading the old study guides that were a transcript of what was playing on Grace to You. Again, this is before you were born, Costi. And those little study guides were really reading those, listening on the radio, is how I learned how to preach in many ways. I had other influences in my life before then, but that was the crowning influence that just set a seal over me on what would be my approach to preaching. And so, by God's grace, I've not departed from that. I don't want to depart from that. And, I stood in his pulpit 2 days ago, and I really feel like the turtle that was on the fence post. The turtle didn't fly up there. The turtle didn't crawl up there. Someone came along, picked up the turtle, and put it on top of the fence post. And it's like, how did I get in this pulpit? Well, that's just the invisible hand of God's grace in my life to be able to stand in that pulpit, which to me is the most respected pulpit in the world.